By the time Daniel said I had sabotaged every viewing, he had arranged his face into the expression he used when explaining me to other people. Marcy Bell, the realtor, stopped writing. Celeste sat beside her with both hands wrapped around her purse. "My mother has lost 3 months," Daniel said. Lauren had access to the calendar and every serious appointment somehow got canceled. "At the realtor's appointment, you told me this was a scheduling review," I said. "It is. We're reviewing what you did." Celeste's mouth tightened. "Just admit you didn't want me to sell." The email she had forwarded me that morning was inside the blue folder on my lap. She had apparently never scrolled far enough to see Daniel's older messages underneath Marcy's. I had read every one. Daniel leaned toward the table. "You owe my mother the truth." I looked at the man I had divorced and wondered which answer he feared more, the one in my folder or the one his mother had spent our entire marriage refusing to ask him for. I let him keep talking. 4 months earlier, Daniel called Celeste's house a quick weekend. He said it Friday night while standing in front of our open refrigerator, eating turkey over the sink with one hand and scrolling through messages with the other. "She just needs help sorting a few things before the realtor comes," he said. I was on the floor beside the dining table trying to separate invoices from paint samples. "What things?" "House things." "That clears it up." He looked down at me. "Linens, dishes, whatever people sort. People who volunteer their wives for a weekend usually know what the weekend involves. I didn't volunteer you." His phone buzzed. He read the message and added, "She wants to start at 9. I held out my hand. "For what?" "Your phone. I want to watch you not volunteering me." He grinned despite himself. That was one of Daniel's talents. Even cornered, he could make our irritation feel like an old private joke, proof that we knew each other too well to stay angry. He pulled me up by the wrist. 2 hours. We'll bring coffee." "Good coffee?" "The manipulative kind." Celeste's brick house stood on a narrow street where every driveway seemed designed for a smaller decade. When we arrived Saturday morning, Daniel parked half on the curb and said, "Don't look at the garage." Naturally, I looked. The garage door was open. Boxes rose behind Celeste's car in soft, unstable columns. A brass floor lamp leaned over them like it had given up trying to supervise. Celeste appeared in the doorway wearing cream slacks, lipstick, and yellow rubber gloves. "You're late." "It's 9:03, Daniel said. "I've been ready since 8. She hugged him without taking off the gloves, then turned to me. "Lauren, thank goodness. You understand presentation." I looked past her into a front hall crowded with framed photographs and a coat rack carrying enough scarves to outfit a regional theater. "What did Marcy say had to be done?" Celeste blinked. "Who?" "The realtor." "Oh, I haven't chosen one yet. Marcy is coming Tuesday to discuss possibilities." I turned toward Daniel. He had become very interested in unloading the coffee. The 2 hours became 6. Celeste had labeled nothing, discarded nothing, and developed emotional attachments to objects she could not identify. "That was your grandmother's," she told Daniel when I lifted a chipped ceramic bowl from a cabinet. "No, it wasn't," he said. "You bought it at Home Goods. Celeste took the bowl from me. With money she gave me. Then emotionally, sure." She laughed and slapped his arm with one yellow glove. They were good together when the stakes were small. Daniel could tease her out of a mood that would have lasted all day with anyone else. Celeste could make him useful by sounding impressed before he had done anything. I cleared one kitchen counter while they debated whether a bread machine missing its paddle could be donated as a decorative appliance. At lunch, Celeste set out tuna salad and 3 kinds of crackers. She had already decided the breakfast nook would be the perfect place for buyer brochures. "Marcy says the market is still decent," she said. "If I list by next month, I could be settled before the weather turns." "Settled where?" I asked. Daniel opened a sparkling water too quickly. Foam ran over his hand. Celeste watched him wipe it on his jeans. "I'll rent something. There's no point rushing into another purchase." "That makes sense," I said. "Of course, depending on timing, I may need a place for a few weeks." Daniel kept wiping the can long after it was dry. I waited. Celeste reached for another cracker. Nothing formal, I'm not arriving with a moving van. That would be hard, Daniel said. Our street's tight. I looked at him. He smiled at his mother. We'll figure it out. On the drive home, I waited until we were 3 blocks away. What does "we'll figure it out" mean? It means we'll figure it out. That phrase is doing a suspicious amount of work. Daniel sighed. She might need somewhere to stay between the sale and a lease. We don't even know when she's listing, so we don't need to fight about it yet. I'm not fighting. I'm asking whether you offered her our guest room. I said we wouldn't let her end up on the street. Celeste owns a 3-bedroom house. You know what I mean. I watched the identical mailboxes pass outside my window. Did you say she could stay with us? He tapped the brakes at a yellow light, although he normally treated yellow lights as personal challenges. I said she would always have somewhere to go. That sounds beautiful. Where is it? He laughed once, without humor. You make everything sound sinister, and you make everything sound homeless. That evening, he ordered Thai food and opened the bottle of wine we had been saving. He didn't apologize. He gave me the crispy noodles from his soup, rubbed the sore spot between my shoulder blades, and talked about replacing the ugly light over our kitchen island. This was how Daniel repaired things. He restored the atmosphere without touching the damage. On Monday, Celeste texted me 12 photographs of her living room from nearly identical angles. Which chair says warm but not old? I replied. The green one. She sent back, Daniel hates green. I stared at the message, then wrote, buyers won't ask Daniel to live with it. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then returned. That's funny. Can you come when Marcy visits? I ran a small styling business from our guest room, mostly helping homeowners prepare ordinary houses for listing photographs. I owned good lamps, neutral throws, artificial branches that did not look aggressively artificial, and enough removable hooks to hang a canoe without damaging the wall. Daniel described my work as making rooms behave. Celeste had always called it decorating until the moment she needed it for free. Marcy Bell arrived Tuesday in a navy jacket with rain on the shoulders and a leather folder tucked under one arm. She was in her 50s, brisk without being cold, and honest enough to make Celeste distrust her immediately. The house is in good condition, Marcy said after the tour, but buyers need to see the rooms, not the volume of your life. Celeste glanced at me as if I had coached her to say it. Marcy opened a cabinet and caught a stack of plastic containers before it fell. We should remove about 40%. 40? Possibly 50. I'm not selling the contents. No, but right now the contents are selling you. Daniel coughed into his fist to hide a laugh. Celeste heard him. You still have boxes here. I have 1 box. You have your father's tools. That's 1 box of tools. Marcy looked between them, making quiet calculations unrelated to square footage. I asked about photographs, showing schedules, and whether Celeste planned to occupy the house while it was listed. Marcy's answers were specific. Photos in 3 weeks if the rooms were ready. Lockbox at the side door. Appointment confirmations by email and text. Celeste could decline a request, but fast responses mattered. Lauren can coordinate that, Daniel said. I turned. Lauren is standing right here. I know. That's why I said it. Marcy looked at me. Do you want to coordinate? No, I can help with staging. Celeste should manage appointments with you directly. Celeste gave a small wounded shrug. I'm not very technical. You texted me 12 pictures of 1 chair yesterday. That's different. Marcy smiled. I can call you. We'll make it simple. For 1 clean second, the matter was settled. Then Daniel said, copy me on everything. I'll make sure nobody misses anything. Marcy wrote down his email. The next 3 weekends disappeared into Celeste's house. Each task revealed 2 more. A cleaner found dark smudges above the radiators. The front bedroom curtains were too short. The dining room chandelier flickered whenever the vacuum ran. Daniel hired an electrician, then a landscaper, then a man named Rick who spent 90 minutes measuring the porch steps before announcing that he would need to come back with different equipment. Celeste hovered near every worker, offering coffee and correcting their terminology. I brought over 2 lamps and a cream-colored rug for the photographs, then 4 framed prints, then bedding because Celeste's floral comforter made the main bedroom look like a room where aspirin went to expire. "You're a miracle," she said as I steamed the new duvet. "It's inventory. I need it back after the house is under contract." "Of course." And I'm writing down everything I bring. "Lauren, I would never keep your things." She said it while wearing my gardening gloves. Daniel spent most of those weekends running errands his mother invented. He bought the wrong light bulbs twice, took an entire afternoon to deliver donations 8 minutes away, and returned with expensive sandwiches as if lunch erased the missing hours. One Sunday, I found him sitting in his father's old recliner in the basement watching a baseball game with the sound off. I stood at the bottom of the stairs. "Your mother is waiting for those storage bins." "I know. She sent me to find you." "I know that too." I walked over and lowered the footrest. His legs dropped. "Hey, you said this was a quick weekend 3 weekends ago." "She keeps adding things, so tell her no." His eyes stayed on the television. "You've met her." "I have. She's 5'4" and currently afraid of Marcy Bell." He smiled, but only briefly. "If I push her, she turns everything into a referendum on whether I care about her." "And if you don't push her?" "She eventually gets tired. Daniel, she has kept a bread machine without a paddle for 11 years. That made him laugh. He reached for my hand and pulled me between his knees. "Just get me through the listing," he said. "Once the sign is up, she'll focus on moving." "Moving where?" His hands loosened around mine. "Not today," he said. There it was again, the closed door disguised as timing. The listing photographs were scheduled for a Thursday morning. On Wednesday night, I came home carrying takeout and found 3 suitcases in our front hall. For one stupid second, I thought Daniel had planned a trip. Then I saw Celeste's monogrammed luggage tag. "Daniel." No answer. The guest room door was open. My sample books had been stacked on the floor beneath the window. 2 boxes labeled winter clothes sat beside the bed. Celeste's framed photograph of Daniel in a tuxedo had been placed on my desk, directly in front of the monitor. I set the food down. Something clicked in the kitchen. Celeste came around the corner, holding one of our wine glasses and a roll of paper towels. "Oh, good, you're home. I spilled a little club soda. How did you get in?" She lifted her hand. A key hung from her fingers. A blue glass bead turned slowly beneath it, catching the light from our ugly kitchen fixture. "Daniel gave me this months ago," she said, "for emergencies." I looked at the boxes in the guest room. "What's the emergency?" "My floors are being polished before the photographs." "The photographs are tomorrow." "Yes, but the smell gives me a headache, so Daniel said I could sleep here." "He didn't tell me." Celeste's expression softened into something almost sympathetic. "He said you'd make it complicated." The front door opened behind me. Daniel walked in carrying a grocery bag and stopped when he saw us facing each other. I pointed at the key. "You gave her a key months ago?" He looked at his mother first. That was the moment, not the lie that followed, or Celeste's suitcases, or my work piled beneath the window. It was the direction of his eyes. "Lauren," he said carefully, "don't do this tonight." I looked at him, then at the grocery bag in his arms. He had bought Celeste's preferred sparkling water, the expensive kind in green glass bottles. "Do what?" I asked. "Notice someone has a key to my house?" "Our house," he said. Celeste set her wine glass on the counter. "I can leave." She did not move toward her luggage. Daniel put the bag down. "No one is asking you to leave." "I am asking for an explanation." She needed somewhere to sleep. "I'm standing right here," Celeste said. "You don't have to discuss me as if I'm luggage." Her luggage was occupying most of our front hall. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. How long are you staying?" "1 night," Daniel said. Celeste looked at him. "Possibly 2. Rick said the floor coating may need additional time." "Rick measured your porch. He knows a flooring person." "Of course he does." Daniel pulled me toward the dining room by my elbow. It was only 3 steps away and there was no door, but he lowered his voice as though we had entered a secure chamber. "Can you please be flexible?" Flexible would be her calling me before she packed. "I was going to tell you." "When?" "Tonight." She arrived before I did. He leaned closer. "Because she's my mother, Lauren. I didn't think I needed to submit a request." "You didn't think you needed my consent? To let my mother sleep in an empty room for 1 night? No, honestly, I didn't." The accuracy of that answer landed harder than another lie would have. Behind him, Celeste opened the refrigerator. "Where should I put my water?" Daniel glanced back. "Anywhere, Mom." She began shifting bottles on the top shelf to make space. I said, "She gives me the key before she leaves." He stared at me. "That isn't punishment. That is the condition. She should have a key for emergencies. She lives 12 minutes away." "That's not the point." "No, the point is you gave it to her months ago and kept it from me." Celeste closed the refrigerator. "I don't enjoy being talked about like I'm breaking into houses." "You used a key I didn't know you had to enter while nobody was home." "My son gave it to me, and I'm asking for it back." She looked at Daniel again. He rubbed the back of his neck. "Can we eat first?" he said. The takeout went cold while Celeste explained the chemistry of floor sealant. Daniel nodded along as if the 3 of us had gathered for a normal dinner, and I was the only person introducing tension. Halfway through, he reached beneath the table and put his hand on my knee. I moved my leg. Celeste noticed. She noticed everything except the role she was playing. In the morning, I woke to cabinet doors opening and closing. Celeste was in the kitchen in one of Daniel's old college sweatshirts, whisking eggs in my good saucepan. "I hope you don't mind," she said. "Daniel never eats enough before work. He's 40. That doesn't make his stomach self-managing." Daniel came in fastening his watch. He kissed my cheek, accepted a plate from her, and avoided looking toward the front hall. The blue beaded key was not in the glass bowl by the door. "Where's the key?" I asked. Celeste kept whisking, "In my purse." "You're leaving after the photographs?" "If the smell is gone." "Then put it in the bowl before you go." Daniel set down his fork. "Lauren." "What?" "You've made your point. I'm trying to get my key. It's my key, too." "That's the point you're making?" Celeste turned off the burner. "Daniel, I'll stay at a hotel tonight. I don't want to cause trouble." He pushed back from the table. "You're not causing trouble." His eyes found mine on the last word. She left the house at 10 with both suitcases and the key still in her purse. Daniel texted that afternoon to say he would pick it up from her. When he came home, he kissed me, complained about traffic, and handed me a paper bag containing lemon cookies Celeste had bought. He did not mention the key. I let the silence stretch until he began unloading the dishwasher just to create noise. "Did you get it?" He put a plate in the wrong cabinet. "She forgot to leave it out." "Call her. She's already upset. So am I." "I'm aware. Are you?" He closed the cabinet harder than necessary. "You act like I handed a key to a stranger." "I might have been less bothered by a stranger. A stranger wouldn't reorganize the refrigerator." "She moved 2 bottles. She moved my work out of the guest room." "For 1 night. Before asking me. Everything becomes a constitutional issue with you." I leaned against the counter and looked at him. "Do you want her to move in here after the sale?" "No." The answer was so immediate that both of us went still. "Then tell her that." "She hasn't asked. She brought winter clothes. She's trying to clear her house. She put a picture of you on my desk." He almost smiled. "That was weird." "It wasn't decoration, Daniel. She was marking the room." He turned back to the dishwasher. "You're getting ahead of yourself." "You told her she would always have somewhere to go." I was comforting her. "With my office, our guest room, My business is in there. I know that. But you let her stack it under the window. His shoulders lowered. For a moment, I thought I had reached him. I don't want her here long term, he said quietly. I couldn't handle it either. Then why am I the only one saying no? She'll hear it differently from you. I stared at the back of his shirt. He removed another plate, checked both cabinets, and finally found the right one. You mean she'll forgive you if I say it? That isn't what I mean. It is exactly what you mean. He turned. I mean, you're better with boundaries. Boundaries aren't a talent you hire your wife to perform. I'm not hiring you. No, that would involve payment. His mouth tightened. You know, sometimes you're funny because you're funny. Sometimes you're funny because you want to cut someone. I picked up the blue glass bowl from the entry table. It had been made by a glassblower in Maine, where Daniel and I had spent our honeymoon driving along the coast in a rented car that smelled like wet dog. The bowl was uneven around the rim. Daniel had loved that about it. He said you could see the hand in it. I carried it into the guest room and set it on my desk. What are you doing? He asked. Moving something before your mother does. Marcy's photographer arrived the next morning with 2 cameras, a tripod, and a habit of walking backward through doorways. I spent 3 hours shifting lamps 2 inches at a time while Celeste followed him around, asking if the rooms looked expensive. They look bright, he said. Bright can be expensive. It can. Marcy came midway through and found me removing a stack of magazines from beneath a side table. You've done this before, she said. It's my work. Daniel said you enjoy helping. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. She gave me a look that suggested she had heard the space between my words. How long can the staging stay? Some of it can stay through the first weekend. After that, we need a rental agreement. Celeste was close enough to hear. A rental agreement? For the rug, lamps, bedding, art, and front room chairs. I thought those were family things. They're business inventory. Daniel walked in carrying coffee. We can figure that out later. No, Marcy said. Figure it out now. I don't want furniture disappearing before a showing. Celeste looked embarrassed, which made Daniel defensive. Obviously, we'll pay for anything that needs paying for. I opened my notebook. I'll send an inventory tonight. Celeste accepted her coffee without thanking him. I never asked you to bring all this. You asked me to make the rooms photograph well. I assumed you owned enough things. I do. That's why they have value. Marcy cleared her throat and asked Celeste to approve the listing description. The conversation moved on, but the air did not. Daniel spent the rest of the morning being especially helpful to his mother, carrying objects she could have lifted with 2 fingers. The listing went live on Monday. Marcy sent a link at 8:06. Celeste called at 8:08 to say the front of the house looked crooked. At 8:11, she asked why the description mentioned public transportation before the formal dining room. By 9, she'd found a comma she believed lowered the property value. The first viewing request came that afternoon. Friday at 5:30, Celeste said over speakerphone. People eat at 5:30. Some people eat at 6:30, I said. Not if they have digestive issues. Daniel muted the phone. Why are you making it worse? I'm expanding her understanding of dinner. He unmuted. Friday works, Mom. Marcy will give you plenty of notice. Celeste sighed. I suppose I can sit at the coffee shop. You'll be there 45 minutes. The chairs are metal. I walked out of the room before I volunteered a cushion. For 2 weeks, the house generated activity but no offer. Celeste treated every visitor as a personal audition. She wanted to know what they had touched, whether they had complimented the molding, and why one couple had spent 11 minutes in the basement. Marcy's feedback was measured. The house showed well. Buyers liked the street. Several thought the kitchen needed updating. Celeste heard only the last sentence. They want everything handed to them, she said. Daniel agreed with her, then told me privately that the kitchen looked 20 years old. It is 20 years old. Don't say that to her. I wasn't planning to. She thinks you side with Marcy. I side with calendars. He frowned at his laptop. What does that mean? It means the house is either for sale or it's a shrine with online photographs. The following Wednesday, Marcy emailed all three of us to ask why a Thursday viewing had been canceled. I read the message while standing in a lighting showroom. I replied, I wasn't involved. Celeste? Daniel answered before she did. Family access issue. Rescheduled through me. That night, I asked what the access issue had been. He was loosening his tie in the bedroom. Mom had a migraine. She told me she spent the afternoon shopping for lamps. It passed. Why didn't Marcy know? She did know, that's why it was canceled. She sounded surprised. Daniel tossed his tie onto the dresser. You read tone into email like it's literature. Did the buyer reschedule? I think so. Marcy asked you that too. You didn't answer. He turned toward the closet. Then she should call me. 2 days later, another appointment disappeared from the shared calendar. Daniel said the buyers had backed out. On Sunday, Celeste complained that Marcy had not brought anyone through all weekend. I thought you had a viewing Saturday, I said. That was canceled. By whom? She looked at Daniel. He spread butter over a dinner roll with careful attention. They couldn't make it. Marcy said they requested a different time, Celeste said. Then she said the house wasn't available. Daniel shrugged. You had the plumber. The plumber left at noon. The timing didn't work. For who? I asked. He put down the knife. Why are you cross-examining me over a viewing? I'm asking because you made yourself the middleman. And now I regret it. Celeste reached across the table and touched his wrist. You were trying to help. The inventory agreement remained unsigned. Celeste said she wanted to review the prices. Daniel said sending his mother paperwork had made everything unnecessarily formal. Then I checked our emergency account. The balance was $8,400 lower than it had been at the start of the month. There were payments to the electrician, the landscaper, the floor contractor Celeste had found through Rick, and a transfer marked house carrying. Daniel was in the garage searching for a drill he had left at Celeste's. I stood in the doorway with my phone. What is this? He glanced at the screen and kept opening drawers. Expenses. Whose? You know whose. You paid for her floors from our emergency savings? She's paying us back when the house closes. Did she agree to that? She knows I'm covering some things. That isn't what I asked. He shoved a drawer closed. I don't need a promissory note from my mother. You needed my agreement before you moved $8,400. Half that money is mine. Which half did you spend? He looked at me then, genuinely angry. The house has to sell before she can pay anyone back. Do you want it sitting there for 6 months? I want to know why you're canceling viewings if selling it is suddenly our financial emergency. His expression changed, not guilt exactly, but the quick stillness of someone hearing a floorboard creak in an empty room. I'm not canceling them. I saw your email. You saw one scheduling change. And the Saturday appointment? The buyers backed out. After asking for a different time, he grabbed his keys from the workbench. The ring held our car key, the garage remote, and a plain silver house key. No blue bead. Where are you going? To get the drill. Ask Celeste for our key while you're there. He walked past me. Daniel? He stopped with his hand on the side door. Do not make me the reason your mother can't live here, I said. He turned just enough to show me his profile. No one is doing that. His phone rang in his pocket. He checked the screen. Mom, he said, as if the name answered me. Then he stepped outside and closed the door. He came back 90 minutes later carrying the drill and a foil-wrapped plate of chicken. Mom made too much. Did you get the key? He set the plate in the refrigerator. She couldn't find it. It's attached to a piece of blue glass. I know what it looks like. Then you should be able to spot it when she uses it to enter our house. He shut the refrigerator. I'm not doing this again tonight. He slept with his back to me. Sometime after midnight, he reached across the bed without waking and rested his hand against my hip. My body recognized the gesture before my anger did. For several minutes, I lay there under the familiar weight of his palm, remembering how many times I had mistaken habit for safety. The next afternoon, the garage door opened while I was on a client call in the guest room. My computer chimed with the security notification. I glanced at the camera feed expecting Daniel and saw Celeste step into the garage carrying 2 empty storage bins. She entered the house through the laundry room. I ended the call early and met her in the kitchen. She startled, then smiled. "I didn't know you were home." "That's becoming a theme." "I'm getting the winter clothes. You seemed unhappy about them being here." "I was unhappy that you brought them without asking." "I'm correcting it." "With the garage code?" "Daniel gave it to me ages ago." She walked toward the guest room. I stepped in front of the doorway. "You need to call before you come over." I did. Daniel didn't answer. "Call me." Her eyebrows lifted. "You've made your feelings clear." "What feelings?" "That my presence is an intrusion. Entering my house while you think I'm gone is an intrusion." She looked past me at the blue glass bowl on my desk. "That belongs by the front door." I moved it. I noticed. Of course she had. I carried the boxes into the hall myself. Celeste followed, narrating how unnecessary my behavior was. At the front door, she shifted the bins and dug through her purse. The blue bead flashed between a packet of tissues and a lipstick. "There," I said. "The key." She closed her hand around it. "Daniel gave it to me. And I'm telling you the permission wasn't his alone to give. You're putting me in the middle of a disagreement with my own son." "No, he put you there when he gave you the key." Her face changed. The wounded mother disappeared, leaving a sharper woman who had spent years learning exactly how long to remain pleasant. "You know, Lauren, Daniel has been under extraordinary pressure. His work, my house, the sale. He's trying to keep everyone calm." "Who is everyone?" She adjusted her grip on the bins. "You can be very literal when you want to avoid kindness. And you can call anything kindness if you benefit from it." The words hung between us. Celeste opened the door. "I'll tell him I no longer feel welcome." "Tell him you entered without calling. He already knows the rest." After she left, I changed the garage code. Daniel discovered it before dinner. He came through the front door holding his phone. "Why doesn't Mom's code work?" "Because it isn't Mom's garage." "She was trying to get her boxes. She got them." "Then why change it?" "Because she came in while she thought nobody was home." "You knew she needed the boxes." "I did not know she was coming." He typed something on his phone. "What are you doing?" Giving her a temporary code. I watched him press save. It took less than 10 seconds for him to erase the boundary I had spent an hour defending. I opened the security app and deleted the new code. He stared at his screen. "Did you just remove it?" "Yes." "Are we going to do this all night?" "No, you can stop." He laughed under his breath. "That's convenient. It's our house. Access requires 2 yeses, not 1. "Since when?" "Since I learned your mother has had a secret key for months." "It wasn't secret." "Then why didn't I know?" "Because I didn't think it mattered." "And now that you know it matters?" He put his phone on the counter. "Now I think you're using it to make a point." I waited for him to hear himself. He didn't. The following morning, I opened a new checking account and changed the deposit instructions for my business. I transferred nothing from our joint accounts. My next payment simply went somewhere Daniel could not use it to polish his mother's floors. Then I sent Celeste the inventory list. I kept the language plain: 11 staged items, their condition, the weekly rental amount, and the date I intended to retrieve them if she did not want to sign. I copied Daniel and Marcy because the property was actively showing. Celeste called before I finished my coffee. "You copied my Realtor on a family bill. It concerns items in the listed house. You're charging me for pictures. I'm charging for the rug, the lamps, the bedding, 2 chairs, and pictures. I fed you lunch every weekend. I'm not billing you for sorting the garage. This is so unlike you." "No, it's unlike what you're used to getting from me." She went quiet. When she spoke again, her voice had cooled. Daniel said you were upset about some expenses. Some expenses? He said he invested in the sale because you refused. We had never agreed to invest in your house. You'll get it back. When? When it sells, obviously. The viewings keep getting canceled. That is Marcy's fault. Marcy seems confused too. Celeste inhaled slowly. I think you need to be careful about implying things when Daniel has done nothing but help both of us. There were several answers available. I chose the shortest. I'll pick up the inventory Thursday at 4 unless the agreement is signed. You would strip the house in the middle of a listing? I would collect my property. You want this sale to fail? No, I want to stop financing it. She hung up. Daniel called 5 minutes later. He did not say hello. What the hell are you doing? Getting dressed. You sent my mother an invoice like she's a stranger. I send invoices to people who use my inventory. She thought you were helping. I was. Then she moved into my office, kept my key, entered my house, and defended you taking money from our savings. She stayed one night. Then paying one invoice should be easy. This isn't about an invoice. No. He was silent. I fastened my watch. Tell her she cannot move in with us. Why are we back to that? We never left it. I told you she isn't moving in. You told me you don't want her to. What did you tell her? He exhaled into the phone. I told her your business is expanding and you need the guest room. The room seemed to tilt, though I was sitting down. You told her I need it. You do need it. You made me the reason. I gave her a practical explanation. You gave her another reason to blame me for a decision you want. She was going to take it better. She didn't take it. She called me cruel for sending a bill. Because you sent it right after I talked to her. I didn't know you had talked to her. Well, the timing was bad. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. Your lies keep having bad timing. I didn't lie. You don't want her here. You told her I won't allow it. You canceled appointments and told Marcy there were family access problems. Which family member does she think the problem is? That has nothing to do with you. That's a remarkable sentence. Lauren, I'm at work. Then go work. I ended the call. On Thursday, Marcy met me at Celeste's house. Celeste had decided not to be there, which she probably meant as a punishment. Daniel had signed the inventory agreement on his mother's behalf and left it on the dining table. Marcy looked at the signature. Does he have permission to sign for her? No. Then take what's yours. I began with the lamps. Without them, the living room corners dimmed. The cream rug came next, revealing the darker rectangle beneath Celeste's coffee table. Marcy helped me roll it. For what it's worth, she said. The place photographed beautifully. Thank you. She's had interest. I know. She's also declined more appointments than I like. I stopped wrapping the cord around a lamp base. Celeste declined them? Someone in the family did. Daniel? Marcy chose her next words carefully. He asked to be copied. That wasn't my question. No, it wasn't. She lifted one end of the rug. I'm trying to respect my client's communication structure. Celeste is your client. Yes. Then why is Daniel controlling the calendar? Marcy looked toward the hall, as if the empty house might repeat us. Because every time I call Celeste, she tells me Daniel is handling it. Every time I call Daniel, he says you have a concern about access, preparation, or timing. A cold little clarity opened inside me. I haven't spoken to him about a single viewing. Her grip tightened around the rug. Put that in writing, I said. I document all scheduling. No, tell Celeste directly that I have never asked you to cancel anything. Marcy set down her end. I can tell her what I know. I can't referee a marriage. Neither can I anymore. She studied my face, and something in hers shifted from professional caution to recognition. I'll speak to her, she said. Daniel arrived as I was carrying the last chair toward my car. He parked crookedly behind me, blocking the driveway, and got out without closing his door. You couldn't wait one day? For what? Mom was going to sign. She had 3 days. You made your point. He kept saying that as though my decisions were only messages addressed to him. I put the chair down beside my trunk. Move your car. Put the furniture back. No. Buyers are coming Saturday. Are they? His jaw tightened. Yes. Then don't cancel. Marcy stepped onto the porch. Daniel, I need to discuss the scheduling procedure with Celeste. He looked at her. I've got it handled. I'm going to work with her directly from now on. My mother gets overwhelmed. I'll keep it simple. He glanced at me, and I saw the instant he decided I had turned Marcy against him. This is exactly the kind of drama I was trying to prevent, he said. Marcy's expression remained neutral. I'm trying to sell the house. So am I. Then move your car, I said. He did. The Saturday buyers never came. Daniel said they changed their minds after seeing the listing photos again. Marcy said the appointment had been canceled from the family side. Celeste called me that evening and accused me of frightening Marcy with private marital grievances. I asked what, specifically, Marcy had told her. That you claim you know nothing about the cancellations. I don't. Daniel says you objected to strangers walking through while your belongings were there. My belongings aren't there now, because you removed them to make the house look bad. Then there should be no access problem. She paused. I could hear a television in the background and the soft clink of ice in a glass. You resent that Daniel helps me, she said. I resent that he makes promises and attaches my name to the cost. You always keep score. I started because the numbers changed when I wasn't looking. Marriage is not an invoice, Lauren. No, an invoice tells you what you're paying for. She hung up again. When Daniel came home, he found my suitcase open on the bed. He stood in the doorway with his coat still on. What is this? I'm staying somewhere else. For how long? I don't know. You packed the blue bowl. It was wrapped in a sweater near the bottom of the suitcase. Yes. He looked around the guest room. My sample books were boxed. The walls were bare where I had removed the framed prints Celeste had displaced. You're leaving over a key? No. Over money? We can put it back. With what? The sale? The sale you keep delaying? He dragged both hands over his face. I am not doing this to my mother right now. I'm not asking you to. What does that mean? It means you'll have to do it without me. He sat on the edge of the bed. For the first time, he looked scared rather than angry. Tell me what you want. I wanted you to tell her the truth before you needed me to prove it. I can fix that. Then call her. Tonight? I closed the suitcase. His face gave me the answer before his mouth did. I rented a furnished studio above a dentist's office. At night, the pipes clicked behind the kitchen wall, and the refrigerator made a noise like someone clearing his throat. Daniel texted every morning for the first week. Most messages were about practical things, the electric bill, a missing charger, whether I had taken the good scissors. None mentioned Celeste. At mediation, he called the money from our emergency account a temporary family loan. I produced the statements. He agreed to credit my share rather than argue in front of another person. The divorce moved quickly once he realized I was not negotiating my way back into the house. Celeste's property did not move at all. A month after the final papers were signed, she forwarded me an email from Marcy with the subject line, Urgent Canceled Appointments. Above it, Celeste had written only, You need to explain what you have done and reimburse me for the losses. I nearly deleted it. Then I saw the older messages beneath Marcy's. The first was from Daniel. The second was also from Daniel. There were 6 of them. In the first message, Daniel told Marcy to cancel a Thursday couple because Lauren had concerns about unsupervised access. In the second, he declined a Saturday morning request that Celeste had already approved. Need to slow things down, he wrote. Mom is packing every time someone looks interested. Marcy replied that the buyers were pre-approved and had adjusted their schedule twice. She asked if Celeste knew he was declining on her behalf. Daniel's answer was short. She'll only get anxious. Lauren and I are handling it. The next 2 messages concerned different buyers. In one, he claimed my inventory could not be moved in time, although I had already removed it. In the other, he said I was not comfortable with strangers having the lockbox code, which showed either a profound misunderstanding of lockboxes or confidence that Celeste would never question him. The sixth message had been sent less than a week before our divorce became final. Marcy had written, "Celeste is holding Lauren responsible for the cancellations. I'm not comfortable allowing that misunderstanding to continue. Please confirm you are instructing me to decline Tuesday." Daniel had answered, "Yes. I need another week. Mom keeps talking about staying at our place as soon as she closes. If she thinks I'm slowing the sale down, she'll turn it into a whole thing. If you let me keep this on Lauren, I can get Mom into a lease first and open the calendar again." He had written our place after I'd moved out. I read the message 3 times, not because it was unclear, because it was so clear that my mind kept searching for somewhere softer to land. Celeste had sent me proof that Daniel was lying to her, but she had sent it as proof that I was lying. I printed the chain at the copy shop beneath my studio. The clerk asked whether I wanted it stapled. "No," I said. "I think it needs to come apart." I emailed Marcy and asked if the messages were complete. She called me 10 minutes later. "Where did you get those?" "Celeste forwarded your latest email." "With the chain attached?" "With everything attached." Marcy let out a breath. "I have been trying to get Daniel out of the schedule for weeks." "Why haven't you?" "Celeste keeps putting him back in. Every time I explain that he canceled something, he tells her you asked him to do it. She believes him before I finish the sentence." "That sounds familiar." "I asked them both to come in tomorrow. Celeste demanded that you attend. To confess." She used the word clarify. Daniel used the word review. Marcy was quiet for a moment. "Will you come?" I looked around the studio. The blue glass bowl sat on the narrow counter beside my keys. Morning light made the bottom glow against the cheap laminate. "Yes," I said, "but I'm not going to help them fix this. I wouldn't ask you to." Now, across Marcy's conference table, Daniel had reached the part where my separate bank account became evidence of a coordinated campaign against his mother. "She pulled her money," he said. "Then she stripped the staging. After that, appointments started disappearing." "Before that," I said. He frowned. "I removed the inventory after appointments started disappearing." "It was all happening at the same time." "No, it wasn't." Celeste turned toward me. "This is exactly what you do. You take one detail and use it to avoid the larger truth." The larger truth was in the blue folder on my lap, but I wanted to hear how far they would go without it. "What do you think I wanted?" I asked. "You didn't want me to sell," she said. "Why?" "Because then Daniel would help me move. Because I might need somewhere to stay. Because you didn't like that we made decisions without consulting you." The last sentence came closest. Daniel leaned forward. "She said she wouldn't allow you in the house." "I said you couldn't move in." Celeste looked between us. "You told me she said even one night was too much." "I never said that." "You didn't have to. You invoiced me the next day." That was weeks later. Daniel waved a hand. "This is what I mean. We can argue dates forever." Marcy's pen stopped above her notebook. Dates are fairly important in a real estate transaction. He sat back. "You know what I'm saying." "I know there were 6 viewing requests declined from your email address." His eyes flicked toward her. Celeste's purse creaked beneath her hands. "Daniel said Lauren asked him to handle the email because she didn't want her name on anything. I never asked Daniel to handle your sale. You helped choose the realtor. I asked Marcy questions when she came to your house. That isn't hiring her. You knew the lockbox schedule. Because I was copied." Daniel shook his head slowly, performing disappointment now. "This is unbelievable." That was the expression from the refrigerator, the garage, the guest room doorway. The one that said the problem was not what he had done, but my refusal to make it reasonable. He looked at Marcy. "My mother's house has been sitting for months. Lauren had the motive, access to the schedule, and a pattern of interfering whenever Mom needed something." "I had access to the emails," I said. I did not have control of the calendar. You influenced every decision. From a studio above a dentist's office? You were still angry. I was getting divorced. Exactly. Celeste turned to me fully. Admit you sabotaged the viewings. Daniel watched my face. I opened the folder. He saw the print at the top of the first page and stopped moving. I placed the 6 sheets beside Marcy's appointment book, not in front of Celeste. She had already received them once. I wanted her to choose to read what she had sent. "What is that?" she asked. "Your forwarded email." "I know what I forwarded." "No," Daniel said. It came out quickly, almost under his breath. Celeste looked at him. "What?" "It's just an old chain. There were a lot of scheduling messages." Marcy pulled the pages closer. "These are the messages I sent." "I know," he said. "They're out of context." "They're in chronological order," I said. Celeste reached across the table. Daniel put his hand on the top page before she could take it. "Mom, let me explain." Her eyes dropped to his hand. That frightened her more than anything I could have said. "Move," she told him. He did. She read standing up. The purse slipped from her lap to the carpet, but she did not notice. Her lips moved over the first message. On the second page, she stopped and looked at Marcy. "Did he cancel the Saturday appointment?" "Yes." "You told me the buyers changed their minds." "I told you the appointment was canceled from your side." "You said family." "Daniel asked me not to upset you." Celeste turned another page. Daniel began talking again. "You were making yourself sick over every showing. You weren't sleeping. You had boxes packed before there was even an offer. I was selling my house. You said you were coming to us the minute it closed. For a few weeks. Mom, you still haven't applied for one apartment. Because you said I could stay with you." He glanced at me. It was automatic. Even with his own words spread across the table, he looked for the nearest piece of me he could place between them. Celeste saw it. "You told me Lauren had forbidden it," she said. She did. "I said I did not agree to you moving in," I said. "Daniel said he didn't want it either." Daniel's face reddened. "That is not what I said. In the basement. You said you couldn't handle it either." "I was trying to calm you down." Celeste made a small sound that might have been a laugh if there had been any humor in it. "You were calming both of us." "I was buying time." "With my mortgage?" "I was trying to get you into a lease before you made another impulsive decision." "I listed my house after 6 months of preparation." "You hadn't thought through where you were going." "You told me where I was going." Daniel's voice rose. "Because every time I tried to discuss alternatives, you acted like I was abandoning you." There it was, the truth, finally, delivered as an accusation because he did not know how else to say it. Celeste stared at him. Her face lost some of its anger. For an instant, she looked older, but not weaker. "You could have told me no." I tried. "No. Lauren told me no. You told me she was difficult." He looked at the pages. "I handled it badly. You canceled 6 appointments. Not 6 buyers. Some were repeat requests." Marcy's eyebrows rose. "That does not improve it." He ignored her. "I was going to reopen everything once Mom had another plan." "You wrote that I was sabotaging the sale after our divorce was final," I said. He rubbed his forehead. The explanation was already in motion. The phrase was so perfectly Daniel that I almost admired it. Celeste reached the final message. "If you let me keep this on Lauren," she read. Daniel closed his eyes. Celeste read it again, more quietly. Then she looked at me and I watched her try to rebuild the previous 3 months without the version of me he had supplied. "You knew," she said, "since yesterday, and you let him sit here and blame you." "Yes." "Why didn't you show me immediately? I wanted to see whether either of you would ask me a question before demanding a confession." She absorbed that without liking it. Daniel pushed his chair back. "Can we not turn this into some performance?" I admitted I handled it badly. You accused your ex-wife of costing your mother thousands of dollars, Marcy said. In my office, I was explaining why Mom believed you created what she believed. He looked at her as if the realtor had violated some professional neutrality by understanding a sentence. Celeste bent and picked up her purse. Her hands shook once while fastening it. Then she took out her keys. The blue bead appeared among them. She separated the key to our former house from the ring and placed it in front of Daniel. You wanted this back so badly, she said. I didn't, he replied. No, Lauren did. You wanted me to think she was cruel for asking. She slid the key across the table. It stopped near his wrist. Give me my house key. Mom, now. He removed a brass key from his own ring. She took it without touching his hand. Then she turned to Marcy. Only you and I schedule appointments from this point forward. Not Daniel, not Lauren. If I decline something, you call me and make me say it twice. I can do that, Marcy said. What is the fastest responsible price adjustment? Marcy opened her folder. We should look at the newest comparables. Do it. Daniel stood. You're making decisions while you're angry. Celeste looked up at him. You made decisions while you were afraid. Mine may be better. He left without the blue beaded key. It remained on the table between the empty chairs. Celeste asked me to stay after Marcy stepped out to print the comparables. I owe you an apology, she said. Yes. She blinked, perhaps expecting me to make the apology easier to deliver. I believed my son. You preferred his version. That is not the same thing. It was to me. She smoothed the corner of the email. You could have come to me. Every time I did, you called my boundary unkind. I thought you were separating him from his family. He was standing beside you, handing me every unpleasant part. She looked toward the door Daniel had used. He has always hated disappointing people. He doesn't hate disappointing them. He hates being present when they notice. That landed. Celeste folded the pages once, then unfolded them along the same crease. I may need help reviewing the expenses, she said. He told me some things were paid and others weren't. Ask him for the records. You have the account statements. So does he. Her mouth tightened. You're really finished. Yes. With both of us. I'm finished doing the work that lets you avoid each other. Marcy returned with the comparables, and I left them to the sale. Daniel came to my studio that evening. He stood in the narrow hall holding the blue beaded key between two fingers. I thought you'd want this. It opens your house. Our house. Not anymore. He looked past me at the bowl on the counter. You took the things that mattered. I took my things. I was scared she would move in and never leave. I know. I thought if I delayed the sale, I could find her an apartment and everyone would be okay. So why blame me? He looked down at the key. Because she already believed you were the one saying no. You made sure she believed that. I didn't know how to undo it. You kept doing it. He nodded once. No defense came after it. That was as close to an honest apology as Daniel could manage then, and it was not enough to make him my responsibility again. I closed the door gently. Celeste accepted an offer 6 weeks later, lower than the first range Marcy had recommended, but solid enough to end the carrying costs. She rented a one-bedroom apartment before closing. The staging invoice arrived in my mail with a check and no note. I deposited it. When I moved out of the studio, I placed the blue glass bowl beside the door of my new apartment. I found one unused bead from the honeymoon set in the bottom of a supply box and threaded it onto my new key myself. In the late afternoon, sunlight crossed the uneven rim and turned the wall blue. The bowl held one key. It was the first time it had ever looked full.